Hi, I'm Noah Gordon. I'm a fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, and I'm here to talk about climate change and energy transition. COP27 didn't solve climate change, and we didn't expect it to. The world is still on track to exceed 1.5 and even 2 degrees of warming. So you see the limits of some of these large international conferences. A lot of countries haven't met the pledges from previous ones, and emissions still aren't falling. But I think on the bright side, you see a lot of countries deciding to take climate action for their own sake, not to fulfill international agreements with no enforcement mechanisms, but to help their economies, to clean up their air, to cut reliance on fossil fuels imported from hostile dictators amid an energy crisis. So I think we can build on COP27, and the economics are moving in the right direction, even if the politics are not always doing that. The European energy crisis is undoubtedly serious. We see some industry shutting down or moving to other continents, government spending huge sums so that people can afford energy, spending up to 5% of GDP in some cases. So there are real problems there. But I think we should admit that the European response has been very strong for the most part. Governments have prevented people from freezing in their homes, as some feared. Governments have mostly stayed unified with regard to sanctions against Russia. Russian gas imports are down about 80%. And in late October, European gas storage was so full and the weather was so warm that European gas prices were actually falling really fast. So this could have been a lot worse. And admittedly, parts of the European response to the energy crisis have not been good for the climate. You've seen some countries reopening coal plants, and one would have hoped that if Germany decided to spend 200 billion euros on the energy sector in 2022, the money would have gone to clean energy, not to ensuring that the gas supplies keep coming. But it's also clear that this crisis is galvanizing the European energy transition. And in the medium term, emissions will actually fall. Europeans are spending more money on solar panels, heat pumps, wind turbines. So the medium term effect will be positive, and that's something to be happy about. The US Inflation Reduction Act operates according to one main principle. If you build or install clean energy, the federal government will pay you for it. And I think it finds a good balance between science, the economy, and society. First, on science, I think this is what climate advocates mean when they say listen to the science. You should listen to the warnings of what happens if you don't take climate action and respond by taking action. Second, the economy. The Inflation Reduction Act, or IRA, really wants to jumpstart the clean energy economy in the US and to change the political economy of the energy transition. It wants to get more people invested in clean energy because they work in the field or because their state benefits from clean energy. And this should ensure that there's continued support for the energy transition going forward. And finally, society. For better or worse, the US is going for an all carrots and no sticks approach to the energy transition. There's no carbon tax or fees on coal-fired power plants or restrictions on fossil fuel supply that would probably raise prices. It's all about hundreds of billions of dollars in tax credits. And it remains to be seen whether this will cut emissions fast enough for the US to hit its climate targets, but I think it stands a good chance of being accepted in society and making clean energy something people can get behind. This should finally bury the zombie idea that, yes, clean energy might be good for the planet, but it hurts jobs and the economy. That's just not true. I think if they want to get people to adopt clean energy technologies, transatlantic policymakers need to be bottleneck detectors. Sometimes a bottleneck for the clean energy transition is money. There isn't enough money to get people to buy or install them, but that's increasingly not the case anymore. More governments, most recently the US with the Inflation Reduction Act, are spending more on clean energy subsidies. And anyway, renewables are so cheap now that that's mainly not needed anymore. But oftentimes a bottleneck isn't money. If you want people to drive electric cars, you need to make sure that there are enough car chargers around and that your country has enough cobalt and lithium. If you want them to be able to use the heat pumps they buy so that they don't have to burn gas to keep their home warm, you have to make sure there's enough trained electricians and installers of these things. And sometimes a bottleneck is in a different sector altogether. It helps to get people to switch to electric cars, but you can also make the streets safer so that people can take the bike to work if they want to. So I think we're reaching some positive tipping points on the way to electrification, and there's reason to be hopeful.